Be ready because Darkseid is coming! Thanks to the upcoming release of the Snyder Cut, we know the Lord of Apokolips is here to cause trouble. But how big of a role does he actually have in the movie? Darkseid is one of the greatest villains in DC's history, but the cosmic baddie has a huge uphill battle when it comes to fan expectations. There are still so many questions about what his part in the upcoming movie will be, and today's video will break down the best way the Snyder Cut can use Darkseid to give him the introduction he deserves. Let's get into it. If you like your villains all powerful and terrifying, yeah, you probably dig Darkseid. This stone-looking powerhouse has plagued the DC universe for ages and caused the Justice League serious headaches over the years. And we all know by now that Darkseid was supposed to be the big bad for Snyder's Justice League movies, but due to massive behind-the-scenes drama, that never happened. But you didn't believe the Lord of Apokolips would let something like production troubles stop him, did you? I'm actually pretty convinced that Darkseid himself is behind all the calls to hashtag release the Snyder Cut just so he could make his big screen debut. Yeah, he's that powerful and should not be underestimated. So you might know the name of Darkseid, but what do you actually know about his character? Well, I already mentioned he's the lord of the planet Apokolips, and in case you couldn't guess, it's not a very pleasant place to live. He's a tyrannical, brutal dictator whose ultimate goal is to conquer the entire universe by eliminating all hope and free will in sentient beings. Most people already know this, but do you know the villain's origins? Like, here's something you may not know. Darkseid isn't his real name. Darkseid was born as Prince Euxis, the son of Yuga Khan, who was the then ruler of Apokolips. Euxis stopped his brother Drax, who was rightfully next in line for the throne, by claiming the power of the Omega Force, a monumentally dangerous and strong power source, and took the throne for himself. First thing he did was rename himself something more fitting for a ruler and settled on Darkseid. Now, I know what you may be thinking, a cosmic strong baddie who wants to create his own version of a better universe? Where have we seen all that before? Oh, that's right, the Mad Titan Thanos! It can't be helped that Thanos and Darkseid are similar types of bad guys, and Warner Bros. Has a tremendous hurdle to overcome in making Darkseid different enough from Thanos, but still retain the core of his character. And on some level, it's not even fair, as Darkseid was originally created first in the comics in 1971, and Thanos was created a few years later in 1973 as a direct response to the Lord of Apokolips. It's really just because the MCU was much faster in getting their cinematic universe off the ground, and now everyone is going to be comparing Darkseid to Thanos, which isn't a great position to be in. But if done in the correct way, Darkseid can be utilized perfectly, and that all starts with his Snyder Cut appearance. There's so much hype surrounding Darkseid and the Snyder Cut in general that it's kind of scary, isn't it? Like, what if after all those petitions I signed, all those billboards and plane banners I paid for, all those handwritten letters I sent to Ben Affleck, what if after all of that, it doesn't change anything and Zack Snyder's Justice League just remains a passable, unmemorable film experience? That can't happen. This needs to be a game changer when it comes to superhero cinema, and a lot of that lies at Darkseid's giant crusty feet, which means he needs to have a semi-significant role in the plot. Let's compare him again to Thanos for a moment. The MCU took the slow route with Thanos, regulating the Mad Titan to mostly post-credit scenes until he appeared in full force in Infinity War. Sure, he had a good-sized role in Guardians of the Galaxy, but many fans claim that to be a waste of time. Because Thanos spent that whole movie in a floating chair and got betrayed pretty easily by Ronan, it really hurt the overall threat of Thanos. Sure, he redeemed himself in Avengers Infinity War, but Darkseid may not get an opportunity like that. His role sounds like it will be just a little bigger than Thanos in Guardians, which means Darkseid needs to do a whole lot more than sit around on a chair and bark orders at Steppenwolf, or else the whole thing is going to fall flat. But thankfully, throughout everything we've heard, Zack Snyder doesn't seem like he intends to make the same mistake with Darkseid that producers did with Thanos in Guardians. The director seems committed to giving his ultimate villain a better story in his movie, and by combing through all the evidence, it seems like Darkseid is going to factor into at least 3 major parts in the plot. Let's break those down. The first part is the history lesson. In the theatrical cut of the movie, Diana narrates how many years ago there was a big fight against Steppenwolf on Earth where humans, Atlanteans, and the Amazons, along with other allies like a Green Lantern and a few old gods, all teamed up to take him down. In that version, the focus remained entirely on Steppenwolf, but expect that to change in the Snyder Cut. This will most likely be the first instance we see Darkseid in action, and it's the film's big chance to show just how deadly of a threat he really is. I would imagine at this stage, he's still Euxis and hasn't fully taken on the mantle of Darkseid yet, and I think that's a smart choice. Imagine if the movie starts out with a flashback to a brutal, power-hungry Euxis who's determined to destroy everything in sight in his quest for power. And then imagine how this loss on Earth that the history lesson depicts is what drives Euxis to want to amass more power and plot to overthrow his father, steal the Omega Force, and take over as ruler of Apokolips, all in an attempt to get even stronger and return to Earth one day. I think that's a pretty effective opening scene, right? The second big part Darkseid is going to have in the Snyder Cut is in the Knightmare sequence. If you remember, Batman v Superman: Yawn of Justice had a lengthy nightmare scene where Batman had a vision of a post-apocalyptic future where Lois Lane was killed and a grief-stricken Superman was left susceptible to Darkseid's anti-life equation and turned evil. Although this was a huge Aquaman bicep-level moment in that film, Justice League completely ignored it. But expect to see this alternate future again in Justice League, this time with 100% more Darkseid, and that's going to really help in establishing Darkseid as a major threat. We already saw a younger Darkseid in the opening of the film who gets burned and vows to achieve more power. Now, presumably halfway through the movie, we see a potential flash forward where Darkseid is victorious and Earth is a dusty post-apocalyptic nightmare. Seeing this future Darkseid will work in raising the stakes as the audience will know exactly what is waiting for Earth if they fail to come together and stop Steppenwolf or Superman. This is going to elevate Darkseid beyond your average villain and make him a true force to be reckoned with. Now, the third part that Darkseid is rumored to be in is the ending. After our heroes beat Steppenwolf, they're supposed to all catch a glimpse of Darkseid through a boom tube. Obviously, this didn't happen in the theatrical cut, as it was clear producers wanted to go in a new direction and get rid of Darkseid altogether. So after we see where Darkseid came from and what a potential future could be, the movie would end with a big stare down between the Justice League and Darkseid, teasing their big showdown in Justice League 2. Now, I'm all for that ending, as it's super exciting. But if Zack Snyder really wanted to make people scared of Darkseid, then instead of just a stare down, Darkseid should show up and severely beat up the Justice League. Imagine this, okay? The group is feeling pretty happy about beating Steppenwolf when Darkseid comes out of nowhere and completely wipes them out and then leaves, showing that although they may have won the battle, they very possibly could lose this war. All three of those examples are going to be the best way to fit Darkseid into the Justice League story. Now I know what you're saying to yourself. You're saying, oh my gosh, CBR, that is so great, I'm gonna subscribe to you right now and tell all my friends and family to subscribe too. And thanks for that, but let's pump the brakes slightly. Although building up Darkseid in Justice League is gonna be a great thing for the movie, what's the overall outcome? Think about it, what happens if the Snyder Cut is literally the best superhero movie of all time? Or at least second best next to the classic Howard the Duck. What if it perfectly captures the essence of Darkseid in such a way where we as an audience member are dying to see the resolution to this Justice League conflict and see this terrifying force of nature again? How are we going to do that? Sure, in the hypothetical DCEU that Zack Snyder originally worked on, it's no secret that the director had a 5-movie plan that started with Man of Steel, then Batman v Superman, then Justice League 2, and then either presumably Justice League 3 or even a Man of Steel 2. It's safe to say that Darkseid could have easily been the main villain throughout the entire arc, but now, things are a lot more complicated. After Justice League's underwhelming performance, the DCEU shifted their strategy and seems set to focus on individual movies for the foreseeable future. I'm really not sure when we'll ever see the full Justice League team up again. Like, even if the Snyder Cut on HBO Max is a huge success, it's just not feasible to make another sequel to it, which means more likely than not, this version of Darkseid will be a one-and-done appearance. But is Darkseid truly gone for good? Just because we won't be seeing the version of the character that's in Zack Snyder's Justice League doesn't mean we won't ever see the Lord of Apokolips again. One of the most exciting upcoming DC movies is a New Gods adaptation from Ava DuVernay. The story will detail a war between Apokolips and New Genesis, which are basically the salt and pepper of planets. While Apokolips is one fiery nightmare planet, New Genesis is a paradise where it's probably Taco Tuesday every day. Darkseid is a major part of that story and will more than likely factor in some way. And DuVernay is actually in a pretty good spot when it comes to her version of Darkseid. If Snyder's Justice League delivers an amazing version of the character, there's no reason why DuVernay couldn't use that same characterization and design for her New Gods movie. If the Snyder Cut completely bombs and the Darkseid is horrible, DuVernay has free reign to tweak her Darkseid and make him better for her movie. Either way, expect more of Darkseid in the future. Lex Luthor was right, the bell has already been rung and they've heard it. Even though he's going to cause a lot of damage, I'm so excited to finally see Darkseid in live action. We've waited long enough. Are you excited for the Snyder Cut? Do you think it will do Darkseid justice, or will it ultimately be as disappointing as Justice League? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, or else our next video will be nothing but Jared Leto's Joker. Kidding. Maybe? But just like and subscribe to be sure. Thanks for watching CBR.